Today I'm going to be telling the story of Grace Horsley Darling. First, I'll start with her family. Her great-grandparents were Robert Darling and Ange Aitson. They married on the 29th of April in 1701. They went on to have two children, George Darling, who went on to marry Mary Wilson, and Robert Darling, who went on to marry Elizabeth Clark. Robert and Elizabeth were Grace's grandparents. They had 8 children together, and the youngest, William Darling, was Grace's father. William was born on the 7th of February 1786 in Northumberland. He was a light housekeeper and married Thomasin Darling, Grace's mother, on the 1st of July 1805 in Bamborough. Thomasin Horsley was born on the 22nd of February 1774 in Bamborough. She was the daughter of John Horsley and Grace Horsley, who Grace was named after. These were also Grace's grandparents. She died on the 16th of October 1848 and then was buried on the 20th. William died on the 28th of May 1865 and was buried on the 30th of May. William was the assistant lighthouse keeper on Brownsman Island from 1812 to 1815, then became the full lighthouse keeper on Brownsman 1815 to 1826. Then he moved to Longstone Lighthouse and was lighthouse keeper there for 34 years from 1826 to 1860. Grace's oldest brother was William Darling, who was born on the 6th of April in 1806 and died on Longstone Lighthouse on the 5th of November 1869, aged 63. Then there were her twin sisters, Thomasin Darling and Mary Ann Darling. They were both born on the 7th of August 1808. Thomasin died on the 17th of August 1886 and she was 78, and Mary died on the 31st of August 1843, aged 35. Then there was Job Horsley Darling, who was born on the 30th of December 1810 and died on the 6th of December 1830 at only 19 years old. He shared Grace's middle name. Next, there is Elizabeth Grace Darling, who was born on the 15th of August 1812 and died on the 31st of December 1844, aged 32. Then there was Robert Darling, who was born on the 29th of March 1814 and who died on the 10th of August 1877, aged 63. Then there were the last two, another set of twins, George Alexander Darling and William Brooks Darling. They were born on the 14th of August 1819 and George died on the 20th of April 1903, age 83, and William died on the 24th of December 1870, age 51. Grace was very gentle as a child and would often play with the birds on the island of Brownsman. She trained them to come near her and they all trusted her, as they got on very well. Grace and her family moved to Longstone Lighthouse in 1826. A lot of her siblings took the opportunity to move out, but Grace stayed at home to help her mother. On the 7th of September 1838, Grace couldn't sleep and was watching a very large storm through her bedroom window. At around 3 in the morning, she could see a ship which had crashed on the Big Hawker Rock. She told her parents, and they looked through a telescope at the top of the lighthouse, but could not see any survivors. The sea was too dangerous to go out into, and if there wasn't anybody there was no point. At around 7, Grace saw movement on the rock. She told her parents, but they still did not want to go as it would be very dangerous. She told them that if they did not come too, she would go alone. Her father was forced to go with her, and her mother helped push out the cobble onto the sea. When they finally got to the rock, there was a lot of people, much more than they had expected. Altogether, there was 18 people. They couldn't bring them all back at once, so they had to do 2 trips. Grace's mother wouldn't let her go back a second time, so her father and 2 men from the crew of the Forfisher had to go with them. The survivors were John Toolchop, John Kidd, John Nicholson, John McQueen, Jonathan Tickett, James Butcherman, Daniel Donovan, James Kelly, Sarah Dawson, James Duncan, John Matson, Alan Stewart, James Hill, James Gall, Alexandra Murray, Robert Fox, David Grant, and Ruthen Riches. Altogether there were 37 people killed. 11 of them were never identified. The others were Captain John Humble, Mrs. Humble, Reverend John Robb, Master James Dawson, Miss Matilda Dawson, Mr. John Gallagher, Mr. William Daltry, the uncle of Reuben Riches, Mrs. Bell, Mrs. Patrick from Hull, Mrs. Robert Allison of Dunedin, Mr. Allison, Master Allison, Mr. Baxter, Mr. Brown of Peth, Mr. J. MacLeland from Glasgow, Mr. Mackland, Mr. John Ornott, Mr. Purston of Glasgow, Daft Smith Churchill, Miss Martin of Aberdeen, Mr. John Duncan, John Grant, William Grant, Mr. Scott, Master Scott, Mr. and Mrs. Allen, and 1 child. Grace got a lot of fame, medals from the Queen and from the RLNI, and also became close friends with the Duke and Duchess of Northumberland. Just a few years after, when Grace was 26, she got ill with tuberculosis. She eventually passed away on the 20th of October 1842. She was in a bed at her sister's house, and she had asked to be raised to hug her father, and that is where she died, in her father's arms.